People constantly ask me over the years about Steve Jobs. Now, Steve Jobs opened Apple very close to the same time we opened our company. And so everybody talks about Jobs because Jobs is a miracle worker. And they say, what did Steve Jobs know that everybody else didn't? And the truth is, Steve Jobs didn't know anything anybody else didn't. He just cared more. He was a dropout from college. He dropped out in his first year, Reed. The next thing he did, he went to India on a spiritual search. He dropped out of his spiritual search. He thought it was stupid. He came back and got a job as a technologist. He dropped out as a technologist because he wasn't really suited for it. And he went with his great idea to his garage, his father's garage, and started Apple. Didn't know anything about business whatsoever. But he had a dream. And he pursued that to a degree that aggravated everybody. He was the worst boss in the world. He pissed everybody off. But the extraordinary thing is the energy, the passion with which he pursued this impossible dream touched everybody. People would work 18-hour days. Touched everybody. That's the heart of Apple.
Business.
I'm delighted to be here this morning, and I want to introduce you to a subject near and dear to my heart, why most businesses don't work and what to do about it. Essentially, that's the last part of the title of my book, The E-Myth. And what we're going to be talking about here over the next 30 to 45 minutes is essentially that subject, why most businesses don't work and what to do about it. And the fact is that most businesses don't. I don't know whether you're familiar with these statistics or not, but I think it's really, really important that we understand the condition of American business as it is, rather than as people would love to think of it. According to the IRS, there are 18.1 million businesses in the country today. Of those 18.1 million businesses, only 100,000 employ 100 or more people. That means that 18 million of the 18.1 million businesses in this country today are small businesses. What most people also don't understand is that every year in this country we're going through some form of transformation. More and more people are going into business for themselves than ever have done that before. Every year in this country, more than 1 million new people go into business with the absolute certainty that they're going to change their lives, change their fortunes, become totally independent, and get rid of the boss. And unfortunately, what happens is they go to work for a lunatic themselves, and in the process create a disaster. You see, what they don't realize is that the statistics, the odds, are so much against them that if they really, really, really understood what it meant to go into business for oneself, what it means to run a business, what it means to be a small business owner, they simply would put their money in a CD, save it, and prepare for their later years in life. In other words, keep the job they've got. What I'm going to suggest is that the reason we have a problem in business today, and it's an extraordinary problem of dimensions most people really can't understand, is that the people who are going into business aren't who we think they are. Think about it. Of the 1 million businesses started last year in this country, fully 800,000 of them will have failed by the time they would have reached their 5th anniversary. 800,000 out of 1 million right out of business. Now, for those of you who have been in business for longer than 5 years, please don't breathe a sigh of relief, because the rest of the good news is the remaining 20%, or 200,000, fully 80% of them will fail in the next 5 years. In other words, if the first 5 years don't kill you, the second 5 absolutely will. So what is it that causes all of this business failure? Is it the economy? Is it interest rates? Is it that we just can't find good people? Is it my mother-in-law? Is it my father-in-law? Is it my sister, my partner, my brother? All of the reasons we continually hear. Is it lack of capital? I'm going to suggest none of those are the reasons businesses fail in this country. And none of those are the reasons businesses will fail in this country. It has nothing to do with the economy. It has nothing to do with the interest rates. It has nothing to do with my father, my mother, my partner. It has nothing to do with the competition. It has to do with something significantly deeper and significantly more important. And most people seem unwilling to look at the fact of it. The problem in American business, ladies and gentlemen, is the person who owns that business. The problem in American business is that so-called entrepreneur. The problem is people who go into business in this country simply don't know what they're doing. And they create chaos and catastrophe every place they look. Because the fact of the matter is, they're not entrepreneurs. The E-myth is the entrepreneurial myth. And the entrepreneurial myth is at the foundation of every single business problem you will uncover in every single small business in American business as you walk up and down the street. Who is it then that goes into business? If it's not an entrepreneur, who starts that business down the street? Well, what I'm going to suggest is that it isn't an entrepreneur, it's a technician suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure. And what I mean by that is the carpenter becomes a contractor, the bookkeeper becomes a bookkeeper, the attorney opens up a legal practice, the doctor opens up a medical practice, the graphics designer opens up a graphics design business, each and every one of them believing, because I understand how to do the technical work of a business, I understand how to run a business that does that technical work. And it's 180 degrees from the truth. Knowing how to do the work in a business has nothing to do with creating a business that works. And it is the fatal assumption behind the failure of almost every single business you walk into. Every single business around. Because the owner of that business, the founder of that business, does not start a business as an entrepreneur would. The founder of that business starts a business for absolutely the wrong reason. They start a business to get rid of the boss. They start a business to get rid of the boss because they're working for somebody else. They're doing it day in and day out, a master technician, a master auto mechanic, a master poodle clipper, and they're sitting there saying to themselves, why am I doing this for this guy? I could be doing this for me. Hell, any dummy can run a business. You said, I'm working for one. And knowing that, you decide, I could do this as well as this guy. And you start a business to get rid of the boss and instantly do what you never should have done. Create a job. So what I'm going to suggest, ladies and gentlemen, for the purpose of this meeting, that most businesses you walk into aren't businesses at all. They're a job for the person who started it. And he's created the worst job of all. Working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, doing it, based upon one presupposition that sweat equity is what every little business is about. Who came up with that word? But a technician who's accustomed to working it, doing it, hasn't the faintest idea of how to create a business that works, simply creates a job that depends upon himself or herself and continues to do it over and over again until they don't want to do it anymore. Most businesses imprison the person who creates it. And I'm suggesting it doesn't have to be that way. So the problem in American business, and American business is small business, is that most American businesses, most small businesses don't work. The person who owns them do. The people who own them do. And they continue to do it until they just don't care anymore. Until they run out of steam. And it's a disaster. And it doesn't have to be that way. So ask yourself, what do you do every day? You pick up the phone, you open the doors, you close the doors, you sweep the floors. You're doing it. Whatever has to be done, you do. Why? Somebody's got to do it. And who's better than you? Can't find people who work as hard as you do. They come in late, they go home early, they're smoking dope at lunch. The problem of people, the problem of money, the problem of this, the problem of that. And what is really true is that every small business owner goes into business knowing that that business is going to be built upon his or her own personal skills. I am my business, everybody says. In the process, labeling themselves in a way that they never thought they were. I am my business, everyone says. If it weren't for me, there wouldn't be a business, they say proudly. But what happens when you don't want to do it anymore? You're out of business. And I want to talk about a man who I'm sure most people are familiar with. at least the company he created, most people are familiar with, and that's Tom Watson, the founder of IBM. You know, when I talk about IBM to small business people, they think to themselves, well, what is he talking about IBM for? I mean, you know, I'm not IBM. I don't want to be IBM. But just think about it for the moment. I think you've got to agree with me, IBM is a relatively successful company. You know, last year, IBM did $59 billion. Last year. Do you know what $59 billion, do you know what $1 billion is? $1 billion, ladies and gentlemen, is $1,000 a day for 3,000 years in small unmarked bills. Think about that. 59 times that last year. I mean, can you see it? How did you do that, Tom? I mean, you gotta wonder, what did the guy know that most people, IBM is bigger than most countries. IBM is, if not one of the most profitable businesses in the entire world, in the history of mankind. Nobody has created anything to match it. Well, you gotta ask yourself, what did the guy know? Somebody asked him the question. And Tom Watson was purported to respond in the following way. He said, I did something at IBM that most people don't do. 3 things. The critical thing, 3 things, he said, that differentiate IBM from everybody else. He said the first thing is I had a picture of what IBM would look like when it was finally done before I even started the business. I had a vision of what the business would look like when it was finished. You know, we talk about visionaries. What is a visionary? A visionary is someone who can see something. Where? Out there? No, in his head. He had a vision in his head, a picture of how the business would look when it was finally done. He saw this extraordinary organization, this extraordinary company, this monument, this testament to order, to control, to discipline, to integrity. The most extraordinary service business in the world is what he imagined he was about to create. And once I had a picture of what the business needed to look like when it was finally done, he said the second thing I did was to get a picture of how our people would look. The people that would be in IBM to produce that vision that I had in my mind. And he said, I saw this extraordinary army of people in their dark suits and their white crisp shirts and their black shining shoes. Missionaries. This army of missionaries out there in the world communicating to the world in a way that nobody had ever communicated to it before. And he said that was the person, the IBM man, he called it then. Excuse me, ladies. He said, finally, the third thing we did at IBM that nobody else did. He said, once I had a picture of what the business would look like when it was finally done, once I had a picture of how our people needed to look in order to bring that vision to the rest of the world, he said, the third thing I realized is that there is absolutely no difference between a big business and a small business. A big business is simply a small business, Tom Watson said, that did the right things. A big business is a small business that did the right things. He said if we were to start our business in the right way and do it as though it were the biggest business in the world, if we're able to act in the beginning as though this business were already complete, only then would we be able to do that. So he said we didn't go to work in IBM, we went to work on IBM to replicate the picture I had in my mind. Let me say that again because it's so critical. He said we didn't go to work in IBM, we went to work on IBM to replicate the picture, the vision I had in my mind. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm suggesting that that is the entrepreneurial perspective that's missing in 99.9% of all businesses in the world. Instead of going to work on their business, most people go to work in their business. Instead of going to work on their business to replicate a vision they have in their mind, they go to work in their business to replicate the only vision they have in their mind, which is that of work. The technician replicates a picture of work. The entrepreneur replicates a picture of a business that works. And that's why you'll find so many people working in their business, doing it, because they have no other picture of how to get it done. You get the point? The point is very, very, very simple. but so extraordinarily difficult to grasp. Tom Watson had a picture of a business out there. He could see it as though it were in his hand. Most other people are their business. They can't even separate themselves from their business. They get up and they do it, and 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 they can't imagine it getting done without them. Being technicians, they have this extraordinary focus on work, work, work. Being an entrepreneur has an extraordinary focus of creating a business that works. What is an entrepreneur really? An entrepreneur is an inventor of a business that works. The entrepreneur has a way of seeing the world and fashioning a business to solve a problem a technician cannot even grasp. So what's necessary? Very simply this, to change your point of view. And that's really what I want to do here today. See, I'm not going to be talking about how to do anything. What I'm really going to be talking about is what needs to be done. What does need to be done? What needs to be done to create a business that works is to go to work on your business, not in your business, to begin to get a business that works without you. If you could find a way to produce a business that works without you, your life would change like that. You're free. You know, it's been said that people learn by being given extraordinary models, examples.